Right, I think we can begin. There's quite a lot of content to go through, so I'm not going to wait any further. We are recording this session, so any latecomers will be able to access that. Right, so, excuse me. Welcome everybody to this session on Mendeley for reference management and academic networking. I'm the presenter today, Kuchner van Deventer. I'm the manager at the Carnegie Research Commons in the library. With me today are my colleagues, Letlau Saloma, Marie Tron, and Naomi Visser. They will be monitoring the chats. So you're welcome to ask a question and they will answer it. If they're unsure, they can raise my attention and I will be able to assist. Okay, so just so you know, we're going to be sharing this PowerPoint afterwards, but the presentation is best viewed in slideshow mode. So the way it is being presented now, as there's a lot of animations and videos in it. So if you're going to view it in the edit mode in PowerPoint, some of the slides will be very confusing. Right. So starting with the basics, what is Mendeley? At its core, it's a reference management tool. And that basically means it's a tool that's used to simplify your referencing in your documents, whether it is a mini dissertation up to a doctoral thesis. It can really assist you in just organizing and managing and keeping track of your various references and even your PDF documents. Yes, so it allows you to organize and search your library, by which you can have different folders in which you can store different topics, for instance. You can annotate documents with it, and it allows you in MS Word and some other word formatting programs to cite while you are writing. Now, by a show of hands, can I just ask how many of you have already created an account, have already downloaded Mendeley? Okay, it looks like about most of you have. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I'm just going to go over a few basic important aspects, though, for those who haven't. You can lower your hands again. Thank you. Right, so yes, to create an account, you go to the Mendeley homepage and then just click on create an account on the top right corner of the page. A very important thing, something that has happened quite often, is that people use the sign in via your institution link. And that is, yes, don't do that. We're not linked to Mendeley in that sense that our institution is connected. And this has caused some problems in the past. So it is better to just create an account with your personal email address or your at sun.ac.za email address. And yes, once you've gone that step, you can enter your details and create a password. Another important thing, something that sometimes causes a glitch as well, is if you do use your at sun.ac.za address, then don't use the same password that you would use for Outlook or for any of the other university platforms. This has also caused conflicts in some situations. Now, here's another thing that I think that I'm worried that some of you might have done. And that is that you might have installed Mendeley Reference Manager and not Mendeley Desktop. Now, the key difference between the two, both are downloadable applications from Mendeley. Mendeley Desktop is the older version. It's a lot more stable. It's most of its bugs have been worked out and sorted out. But Mendeley is in the process of phasing Mendeley Desktop out. to eventually replace it with Reference Manager. And access to downloading Mendeley Desktop from Elsafeed directly will stop on 1 September. But we are going to upload a download file on our library guide where people will still be able to access this older, more stable version. So even though Reference Manager, the Mendeley Reference Manager application, is newer, it is still not recommended because it lacks many of the features that Mendeley Desktop has, like searching for duplicates or exporting or importing reference files. There's a lot that we'll go through, and I'll show you now where you can look up for some additional information as well. And in addition to that, the Microsoft Word plugin that comes with Reference Manager, known as Mendeley Site, is very faulty as well. So just to clarify quickly, I'm going to show you. This is the original Mendeley Desktop. You'll see there in the top left corner, it says Mendeley Desktop. Now, and here is Mendeley Reference Manager. So they both, in essence, look the same, but they don't really function the same. This one is constantly being updated, and it does make it a lot easier, or it will eventually fulfill our needs. But at the moment, we do not recommend using the newer version. And yes, so the other thing I want to highlight as well, just in case some of you have installed Reference Manager, I want to emphasize a different aspect also. And this is in Word. If you go to References, we have the Mendeley Site-O-Matic, and I'm going to go into more detail in this later. This is the plugin that works with Mendeley Desktop. And then we have Mendeley Site here that works with Mendeley Reference Manager. And this is the one that's really, at this stage, I think on the App Store or the Microsoft App Store, it gets a rating of 1.4 out of 5. And that is also why we advise against using it. I have it installed for demonstration purposes, but I do not use it, to be honest. Okay. So the other thing I want to show is where you can find more information if you have any questions that doesn't get covered in this session. And that is on the library homepage. If you go to our library guides here and you click on the image, and then at search, you type in Mendeley. And we just load the first option. And then you'll see we've got a library, quite a comprehensive library guide here with various aspects of Mendeley. And here we've got some Mendeley FAQs that you can look at. How to migrate from Mendeley Desktop to Mendeley Reference Manager. Obviously, we can't tell you which one to use or not to use. So if you do intend on migrating, just take some of this advice into account. And some other information, including some notable differences between the two applications. Okay. I see there's still a hand raised. I just want to check if it's if somebody wants to ask a question, or is it still part of the check earlier?
No.
Leclau?
There was a question on someone who's using a Mac device. They said they get a message that says the developer needs to be updated. I'm not sure if it's that security issue that Mac people often experience.
That's a new issue that's been popping up. And yeah, so, and that's with Mendeley Desktop.
Can I ask Paul Mayers to you can unmute and ask the question directly.
Thank you. Yes, it is with one of the later Macs, a Mac M1 chip, and it is installing Mendeley Desktop. It just won't let me actually open it. I am able to install Reference Manager though.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your, ask my colleague to take your contact details, and then we'll just assist you after the session. Yeah, problems with Apple is something that we are aware of as well, that there are some issues.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, we do have a colleague here who is quite experienced with using Mendeley with Mac, so maybe we can refer you to him. Okay, so for now, I'm just going to continue again.
Sorry, Kirchner, there is also a hand raised by Ms. Ayeni. This is a new hand. I'm not sure if she wants to ask a question now.
Yes, Ms. Ayeni.
Hello, I also have a similar. I use Mac too, and I'm unable to access it. Said the developer needs to update it.
Okay, so you have the same issue.
Yes.
All right, so yes, you can just share your email address as well, and my colleague Letla will keep record of that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so I'll proceed to a point, and then I'll ask if there are any other questions again. I'm just worried that we're going to run out of time. So yes. Okay, so I'm going to skip over most of this now because I think most of you are fine with downloading and installing. But the instructions are here on the PowerPoint in case anybody wants to know. So, yes, just an overview of Mendeley Desktop itself. So the features, and this is now just an overview of the different the different tabs that we have here at the top. So under file, you've got some options like you can add a file, or you can even add a folder where there might be multiple reference or RIS files in it. It allows you to add entry manually, or you can import records from another database or from another reference management software. Here you can also have the option to export PDF files or even export PDFs with the annotations that you made. And the edit page, it's fairly basic. It's the same kind of editing that's allowed that you will have in Word or any other processing processing software. It's got a find option, cut, copy, paste, where you can create a new folder or a new group. Under view, you have the option to view your library as citations or as a table. Just to illustrate the difference of what that would be, this is now as a table, and as citations, now you see what it would look like as an actual reference in the reference list. This is a good way of scanning through and seeing which sections or what aspects of a reference is missing or doesn't work. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in. Mendeley Desktop doesn't allow a person to zoom in, so apologies for that. Under Tools, this is where you'll be able to install the web importer, and we'll get to that now, and the MS Word plugin. You'll see there's also an option to get Mendeley's sites. As I mentioned earlier, rather avoid using that unless it's a case now with some, like we've just heard, with some Apple users that desktop is just not accessible anymore. But I will have to double check on that because there are certain ways to bypass those issues. And then there's some options, various options that allow you to determine your watch folder, where you want your PDF files to be saved, and so on. And under help, there's some guides that you can go to look at, some FAQs direct from Mendeley. You can create a backup of your library, which is very valuable as well, especially if you want to, for instance, migrate to Mendeley Reference Manager. Okay. This little table is just some shortcuts from the tabs at the top. So here you can add some new references. Here you can add or remove folders. And very important is the synchronize option. Mendeley Desktop is a completely offline application, and it only connects to the internet when you allow it, tell it to sync. So very often, if you get references from the internet, you first have to synchronize it so that it downloads those references from your Mendeley library in the cloud. And then there's the help section again. So now the interface is divided into 5 different sections roughly. Here to the left, you've got your different folder areas. All documents refers to every single reference that you have. They'll all be stored here. But you can also have different folders with different contents that you store in each of them. And you can create subfolders. Very useful as well is the option to create groups. So with groups, you and some other colleagues can collaborate while using one library. So if you add a reference to that library, everybody else who has access to that shared group will also be able to access that reference then. Here to the bottom is a filter feature. And this is a great way of filtering what references you have according to the author, whether it is depending on their surname or or initials. This is also a good way of determining whether you might accidentally have several references by the same author, but Mendeley recognizes them as actually being 2 different authors, either because the initials are incorrectly added or one person's name is written out or the other person's name is only initials. And here you'll see, for instance, how this can be confusing if there's a lot of references with the same surname. Now I'm just going to clear there. Here in the main page, as I mentioned, this is now where you have your different references, starting with your authors, the title, the year, where it is published in, and then also the date that it was added. This is a good way of checking what's your most recently added references. Also take notes, and there's this annoying little yellow bar that will probably be here till 1 September, notifying us that downloading Mendeley Desktop will not be possible after 1 September. And to the right is where you can find all the metadata or bibliographic information of a specific reference. So here you'll see, at the top you'll see that the details still need to be reviewed. It's listed as a journal article. Here's the title of the article. Here's the authors, the title of the journal, and all the other bibliographic information, including the DOI, which is a very important addition that needs you need to make sure that you have, especially if you have a journal citation. So I'm just going to minimize again. So this is just a larger view of the things that we just covered. The folders, the different folders, or the library. The filter option. Here you see you can filter with different options by author keywords, by your own tags. That is a very, very nifty feature. And I'll show you now how that works as well, or by publications. Here's just a closer view of the different or of the main screen. And then here you have your bibliographic information. So tags work very great in the sense that in the bibliographic field to the right, you can add a tag here and say, let's say, for instance, research proposal. And let's put another tag here, chapter 1, and another tag for chapter 1. And here maybe again, research proposal. And the more tags you add, the more suggestions will appear. So now if you filter by tags, you'll see you've got a little summary there of the different tags that you have created so far. So now if you want a summary of the documents that you think will be useful, for instance, chapter 1 or for your research proposal, then you can collate them in this way. The alternative, obviously, is also to use the folders options there. Okay. This is perhaps the most important thing that I want you to take note of regarding Mendeley or any other reference management software, is that you have to still check the details that go in. If you import a reference, you cannot assume that it is 100% correct. So for instance, this one, there's missing information here. It says it's a journal article, but something doesn't completely collate. It says Raleigh Friday Institute or Educational Innovation, North Carolina University. There's no volume, there's no issue number. Those are all things that will have to be looked at. Also, the title is written in title case, where it should be written in sentence case. That means essentially that the I, the D, the L, the P, the A, etc. must be in lowercase. It must not be in uppercase. So it must read like you would read a normal sentence in a book. The only uppercase exceptions would be a place name or a person's name. And these are all things that you will have to manually change. There's nothing, Mendeley does not do this automatically for you. So yes, this wording here that garbage that goes in will come out as garbage in your reference list. But you can use the Mendeley article database to check for a more complete or accurate reference. This is what this little yellow bar at the top is, where it prompts you to either you can say the details are correct, or you can search for a more comprehensive result. So next up is the web importer. I think at first it was still a bit faulty and not as great but it has recently really improved. And the web importer allows you to import references directly via the importer to Mendeley, instead of using the options that are on a specific database. So under the Tools tab, you just click on Install Web Importer. And depending on what browser you have, you will be taken to a page where it will say Get Web Importer for Firefox or for Chrome, etc. And then you will have the option, and you just say Add to Chrome or Add to Firefox or Add to Safari. And yes, then sometimes there's an additional pop-up that appears that asks you, are you sure you want to add the extension? Are you going to give these permissions, etc.? And just say add extension. And then once you've done that, it should appear here at the top right corner under your plugin or under your plugin drop-down menu. And you just click on it and you sign in with your information. Okay, so from here, I'm going to do a practical demonstration rather. So let's go back to the library homepage. And let's look for a topic. So since we're working on the web importer now, I'm going to stick with that for now. And I'm going to show you how that works first. Now, what it does that is really quite nifty is if you click on it now and you are signed in, it will hopefully pick up the sources. And this is why we always have backups in case it does not work. So for instance, in my presentation, when I did this literally yesterday, and I did a search, I found the results, and I actually did get some of these results in the Mendeley, and I was able to export. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it does work, but you do have worst case scenarios. So I'll show it again in a more stable database. Oopsie, excuse me, accidentally closed the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so the other way, which we're going to jump to now, is importing references directly from databases. And the first one obviously is now the library search database. And if you click on a source that you want to access, let's filter it and look specifically for articles. And let's have a look at this one. Now you'll see there's a couple of options here. There is what we call an RIS file format. RIS you'll find on almost any database as an export function for reference managers. But just to the right, we also have Mendeley as an option. So let's first do Mendeley because this is the one that usually works the quickest. So I'm going to click on that. It wants to just confirm that my account is that one. Proceed. It says exporting to Mendeley, and then it says successfully exported. Now, I'm just going to clear my results there. As you can see, that reference is still not here. You first need to click on synchronize. And again, that annoying pop-up appears. And now let's try again. And there we have it. So now that information, everything has been added that we had from that database. All right. The other option that I want to show now as well is the RIS feature, because not all databases have the direct to Mendeley option, but practically every database has an RIS file option. So in this case, we click on the RIS, and then here we just say download. And then we'll have, it will appear there. And then instead of clicking directly on it here, I want to show you where it where it will go and lie. Because maybe you don't want to do it one reference at a time. Maybe you want to first download a couple of RIS files before you import them all. So usually most people's browsers are set to automatically save their files in the downloads folder. And you can find this in under your C drive, were users, your username minus KVD, and then under downloads. And normally the first time that you download an RIS folder, you're going to be prompted to select which program to open it for. So you'll get this little notification that asks, how do you want to open this file? At the bottom, you'll see there's an option, always use this app to open RIS files option. Make sure you tick that so that you don't have to do this every time. And then you select Mendeley Desktop and you say, okay. And now it's a second copy of the same reference has been imported. And this is a good time to actually check for duplicates. And let's see how that works. You'll see now that it's automatically picking up, Mendeley automatically picks up different duplicate options. And then it allows you to merge these duplicates. Sometimes, if the duplicates are too different, you first have to review which one of the references you want to keep and which one you want to discard. Okay, so there's another way that's a bit easier with the RIS files or any other referencing files. Let's just quickly go to that. I'm looking for the drag and drop one. There we go. And this is quite a useful feature. Is instead of having to click on add and adding it directly from the file or double clicking on the file, you can also just drag and drop it. And then those RIS or those records will then appear in Mendeley Desktop. Okay. All right, but let's go and have a look at some other databases as well. Yes, sorry, sometimes I just go automatically. Back on the library's homepage, here on our list of different options here, click on Databases A to Z list. So I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but this happens to me a lot, that when I click on that Databases A to Z list, I get this message that says list does not exist. But if you click on refresh, then the list appears. Okay, so now the database I'm going to look at first is EBSCOhost, which is almost a universal database that covers a multitude of different fields. So I'm just going to click on EBSCOhost databases. And then basically they're all selected. There are some ones that aren't selected. These are now different databases that EBSCOhost will search through. And then we click on continue. And then, yes, let's say research integrity. Here. Oh, no, wait. Let's get a bit more specific. So FYI, if you put a phrase in quotation marks or inverted commas. The database is going to search for that exact phrase. It's not going to search for the two words separately. And quite useful as well, you'll see here that there's often suggestions of other terminology that you should use when you do conduct a search. That's very important that you do not stick just with one piece of terminology. If you want further tips on how to conduct a thorough search, make sure that you become very good friends with your faculty librarian. They can teach you how to find the most accurate information that you require. Okay. And then we say search. And now we've got some results to use. Let's try the Mendeley web importer again. And see, here it now works all of a sudden. And what's quite nice about it is that a lot of these actually has the PDF available along with it. So it allows you to actually export the references with the PDF article attached. So I've selected these, and it's also a good way of exporting the bibliographic information for a website in case you intend on citing a website from the internet. You can also select which library you want to export it to. In this case, I'm going to select demonstration, and I'm going to say add. Okay, and then you can now just cross-confirm to make sure that the PDF has been exported in all. Here is a case where you'll see now PDF not found. So also don't assume that just because it says PDF available that it will export. And now back to Mendeley. We click on sync. This one might take a bit longer because there are PDF articles now as well. And I don't know why my window has now gone so odd. Interesting. Anyway, so then we just click on add it again, and now you'll see we have our results here. And the PDFs attached with them. So to have a look at the PDF, you can either just click on the little icon and it will load it automatically. And you can do some basic annotations in Mendeley, which is quite useful. So you can add highlights, for instance. And just add the highlight. You can change the color of the highlight. You can add a sticky note or a normal note and just say, Alvin disagrees. Or something of the like. And then if you go to your notes, you'll see you'll have a summary of your different notes for this one. And you can also make some general notes where you would perhaps be summarizing the document in your own words. And there's a contents, yes. Some of the more detailed PDFs will even have a contents section that allows you to jump between the different sections. And once you are finished annotating it, and let's say you want to share your annotated document with a colleague or with your supervisor, you can go to File, and you can say Export PDFs with annotations, and then it will have the option there, and you can just select Export, and it will ask you where to store it. Right, so. Okay, so as I mentioned, another way to import RIS files is, if you haven't downloaded, is you can just click on the Add icon that appears under the File tab. And then you click on Add Files, and then you navigate to your Downloads page, and you click on the relevant RIS file, and you click on Open, and then it will be added. But let's have a look at another database. So back to databases A to Z. Oh no, wait, here's the list. I'm not gonna. And now we're going for Science Direct. Now, Science Direct and Mendeley and Scopus are all products of Elsevier. So Scopus and Science Direct, those two databases work incredibly well with Mendeley because their integration is exceptional. And I am going to show you Scopus as well, because just so you can be aware of slighter differences that there might be. Let's think. Okay, I'm out of topic ideas. Can anybody suggest a topic for me? Let me go to the chat quickly. Any suggestions? Computer security, okay. All right, so now we've got quite a lot of results. Again, from here, the Mendeley web importer does work very well, especially because it is an Elsevier product. But let's say on the day the web importer doesn't work. Then if you select the ones that you want to export, just going to select a couple of random ones, and then click on Export. You'll see again, you'll have these different options. And let's say Export Citation to RIS, and it has downloaded. And now, because we have ticked that option to always open RIS files with Mendeley Desktop, let's click on it, and there they are added. And these references should be fairly comprehensively populated to the right as well. But not necessarily always completely. There's still some things that might need looking at, like this additional information in brackets, square brackets. And you'll see also that now with the RIS file, the PDFs have not been added. So to do that, to manually add a PDF to a source, we need to go back and let's use this one of COB. I'm going to download the PDF. First, it's going to load in a new page. And then you can either, no, that's not an option. Usually to the top right corner, there will be a little download icon. You just click on that and you say download. Again, let's just download it in the downloads folder. And then we go back to Mendeley. Let's look for the COB file. And right at the bottom, you'll see there's a Files tab. And you just below it, you click on that little grayed out Add File option. Okay, and you go to Downloads. If you're not at Downloads already, you select that the correct PDF, and you say Open, and it is now attached. Okay, so skipping that, we've watched this video. So in general, RIS, BibTeX, and XML are common formats that we find for exporting citations from another database or program. We generally advise that wherever possible, use the RIS format preferably. And these formats can also be used to import citations from other reference management software. For instance, if you are now going to move from, let's say for whatever reason, you are moving from Stellenbosch to University of Cape Town, and you want to export your Mendeley database to EndNote, which is the software that they use there, then you will be using the same file format. Okay, so now quick practical demonstration on Google Scholar and Scopus. How's the time looking? We've still got a bit of time, but I'm going to have to start going a bit quicker. Yeah, I'm just going to So the first thing I want to say about Google Scholar's citation options is that preferably don't use them to populate your library. Unless you can't find these sources on another database, because these ones are usually very, very poorly populated, and I'll explain how I'll illustrate that now. But this is an example of how a BibTeX file can be used. So let's take this first one, say Cite, and we select BibTeX. And now you'll see we've got this little file here, and we can just right-click and say Save Page As. Then you need to make sure that it's saved as a text document. And let's just say Scholar Source. And let's go to Downloads. And I'm going to say Save. And now going back to Mendeley, I'm going to click on Add, say Add Files, and there's the Scholar Source. And here it appears. And as I said, it is very poorly populated. We've got the title, we've got the author, we've got the year, but we've got nothing else. So now you're going to have to go back, look at the PDF article, which isn't even a PDF article. And now you're going to have to treat this as a PowerPoint presentation, and you're going to have to adjust your reference accordingly. So what it would be a multimedia option. Let's see quickly what options we have. And I don't even think, yeah, Mendeley doesn't have a multimedia or PowerPoint presentation format. So in this case, it would have to be generic. And so we've got our title, at least we've got the author. The only thing that we need to add, and this is a bit where some trickery has to come in, is that after the title, you put a full stop, square brackets, and you write out PowerPoint presentation, square brackets, full stop. And then you also need to add the URL And I'm thinking, and then you have it. The date of access might be necessary, will be necessary as well. So this might not be the best version, but I'm not going to spend much more time on this exact example. But this is a type of thing, and this is why we always warn against Google Scholar, because you cannot, the results may not be as reviewed or peer reviewed even as results you would find on one of our databases via the library. Okay, so next up is Scopus. Okay, so in Scopus, you also have an option to select all this results. Be careful to select all. I noticed earlier when I selected it, it literally actually, and I wanted to say export. It actually, see, yeah, here it's it almost wants to choose literally all the results that you have. So in this case, that is very good for a systematic review. But in this case, that's not going to be work. So make sure that you say select page. And then we click on export. Because I previously made it, yeah. The first time you click on that, you're going to get a little pop-up window. So yeah, the first time you click on export, you're going to get a pop-up window like this. And when you select Mendeley and click on export, you're going to be prompted to sign in or create an account just the first time around if you're using your own computer. And then just follow the steps to link Mendeley and Scopus. And then once that is done, we can go back to where I am now. And I can say CSV export. I'm going to say select Mendeley. Mendeley automatically chooses what information gets exported. It usually includes everything that's here, but it also includes where the abstract, for instance, and the author keywords and so on. And let's click on export. Let's go back to Mendeley and click on synchronize. And those, man. And now you will have your results here. No, actually not. What's going on? Okay, I'll look into that later. Sometimes a glitch like that does happen. It might, oh, you know what? It might be because I've already still selected too many results and it's going to take too long. It's going to take a while to export. But if I go to my online library, it should appear there. I don't know, unfortunately, and this is something to take note of as well. Mendeley likes to disconnect your account very frequently. So you'll often have to be prompted to sign in again. So make sure you remember what your password is. Let's go to library. And it's still syncing. Okay, so it's still syncing. The reason it's not showing is because I accidentally still chose to import 200 references. But it will eventually go and lie in the library. Okay, so yeah, in this case, it would have said have been exported to Mendeley, and you can view it in your library. And once you have finished, you will get this notification. And as I said, just remember to sync your library in Mendeley Desktop. Otherwise, you will not see those imported references. Okay, so we have already covered this one. So I'm going to skip here. And we've already looked at how to add PDF files to desktop and how to annotate them. So now we get to MS Word. So the first thing you need to do in to get Mendeley into MS Word is that in Mendeley Desktop, you click on the Tools tab, and then you click on Install the MS Word plugin. But make sure that Outlook and Word is closed before doing this. It doesn't have to, but Mendeley automatically closes those programs. And that can sometimes come as a bit of a surprise, especially if you were working on a document. But it will prompt you to save first. So I've already installed the plugin, so that's why it's saying uninstall MS Word plugin. But in your case, if you haven't installed it yet, it will say install. Okay. Now, once you've installed the plugin, the next thing you need to do is you need to install the Stellenbosch University Harvard style, if that is the style that you need to use. So under View, you click on Citation Style, and then you go to More Styles. And there, it will the first image that you will see will be the installed tab. But just to the right of it, you click on Get More Styles, and then you type in Stellenbosch. And the first result you'll get Stellenbosch University Harvard, and you just click on Install, and then it will appear in your list of available styles. Sometimes, for whatever reason, it might be your supervisor asking you to make a change to the way your citations are appearing. For instance, the use of et al. Now, Harvard, the general rule and the most recent rule with Harvard referencing is that et al. Can be used the moment there are three or more authors being cited. Previously, it was a case that you had to, the first time you cited a source and there were three or more authors, you had to write them all out, and then afterwards you would use et al. But this has been changed. These days with Harvard style, and this is most Harvard styles across the world, et al. Can be used from the very first instance. But we can still, if your supervisor still wants it to be as it was in the previous way, we can still customize your style for you. And in a case like that, we will have to send you a link to download that style, that customized style. And then you can just paste that link in this download cell here at the bottom, and you can use that one then for your referencing. Okay, so now to the interface of the Mendeley Cite-O-Matic in Word. So here you've got your insert citation little button. I'll demonstrate how that works now. And how to insert a bibliography. You can also undo, you can refresh to make sure any changes that you made in Mendeley Desktop, the application, is applied to your document. And at the style is where you select your style. Okay, so here's a short little video on how to insert a citation and selecting the appropriate style. I'm going to click play. So there I would click on insert citation. Now with this pop-up, here with Mendeley, unfortunately, you need to be fairly have a fairly good idea of who the author is that you want to add. Oh dear, that wasn't supposed to appear yet, but anyway, I wasn't supposed to pause the recording. I'll have to rethink it. Yeah. So you add the author, and but you have to know who the author is. There's no way Mendeley doesn't show you a menu of the different of your entire library when this little pop-up appears, and that is what Mendeley's site does do better. Is that it actually does give you in Word a list of your library. So to demonstrate, let's just go to references. I have to now, for instance, look up, let's see. So I have to make sure, yeah, I have to, if I have, let's say it's Deng I'm looking for. I have to know the author because that's the article I'm looking for. And I'll then put it, say, okay. With Mendeley's site, let's just load it a bit. And see, this is why we have issues. It might be because I've already used a Site-O-Matic, but that's right. Yes, that's why. And that's an important thing to take note of for those of you who want to use Mendeley's site rather than the original desktop, is you cannot use the Site-O-Matic, this thing here, and Mendeley's site together. You have to use the one or the other. And very, very, very important. If you are already working on a document and you've already been using Mendeley Desktop for months now, if it's your thesis or your or article or whatever you are working on, do not then migrate to Reference Manager. Rather finish what you are working on at the moment with Desktop. We've experienced serious issues where people try to migrate, where basically all the active fields in Mendeley got disabled and they basically had to do their reference lists and in-text citations from scratch. So you don't want that. So going back to the recording. So that's how you select the author. And then you select whichever style works for you. If SU Harvard doesn't appear in that drop-down list, as I said, you just click on more styles at the bottom of the list and you will find it there. So here's an example of how to insert multiple citations. And in each case, as I said, yes, you need to know the authors that you want to add. But the format automatically appears as it should for that specific style. But sometimes, I mean, sometimes your sentence structure doesn't allow for the author to appear within the reference. So if you want to say, for instance, according to, and then obviously how to add page numbers to a document. So this is how you can edit a citation so that it fits the structure of your sentence. Now look what happens when you click on the source. That's where it said insert citation has now become edit citation. And then you click on the citation you want to edit, and you say suppress author. And now those authors within the parentheses are gone. For page numbers, same thing. You highlight the citation that you want to edit. You select the author that you want to add page numbers to. And the page numbers will automatically appear readily formatted. Okay. Now with the bibliography, let's follow the steps here. So now we've got the bibliography inserted. It's basically you just click on insert bibliography and it will give you the full list of references. But there will be issues. So you'll notice here there's some errors like that H must be uppercase. Very importantly, with the titles of journals, they must be title case. Article titles must be sentence case, and book titles. In most cases, a little that abbreviation to the right is not necessary for a reference. And also, your reference list must be left aligned to do away with unnecessary spacing. Okay, I think that's the end of this recording. Let's get to the next one. So yes, journal titles in title case, article and book titles in sentence case. So, and here are examples of, well, here's the difference basically of title case and sentence case. But now look what's going to happen when I click on refresh. All the changes I made are gone. And this is a very, very important thing to take note of, is do not make changes to your bibliography in MS Word. Those changes will be overwritten every time. Whatever changes you want to make to a reference or a source, you have to make it in Mendeley Desktop itself. And then you can click refresh and those changes will be applied in your document. No, this shouldn't be here. Something, let me just double check. Oh, it is, yeah, no, it's right. Sorry. Yes, we're at the end of the session. Okay, so that's the, yes, that's most of the features, and I think most of the basics as well. Okay, so we can do, we've still got 20 minutes left for a Q&A.
Okay, there was a question, maybe I should take you back a little. There was a question on how to save the author's names. Do you put initials or do you put the names in full? Can you talk about that?
I would recommend where you can to put in the author's names, but it depends on the style you're using. Because if I'm correct, then let's have a look at where can I get a, let's quickly create, I'm quickly going to generate a reference list here. Not working as I thought it would. Let's quickly insert a couple. Okay. So depending on the style you're using, Harvard is just the initials are needed. But I think when I looked at IEEE, no, it wasn't IEEE. There are some styles that do require it written out. But I think it's becoming less and less that the first names need to be written out. But here's an example. Yes, we've got Alan, Igor. Yes. So Vancouver, Chicago's manuals, Chicago style, for instance, still requires the names to be written out. But this can be quite painful because a lot of the time the information, the author's names aren't available. The document, even the PDF documents, will only have the initials available. So for Harvard, for APA, for most of the styles that we use here at Stellenbosch, initials are fine.
Okay. And then there was another question on how to download your references. Say perhaps if you want to move from Mendeley and you want to switch to EndNote.
How to do that?
Yes, how to download your library from one reference management software to another.
Okay. So what you would do is you would select all documents and then select all your references. And then click on File, say Export. And I'm just going to save it on the desktop. And then I would save it as an RIS file. And now I've got it there. And I actually do have EndNote installed. I just don't see it now. Where is it? And you just say import file, choose my collection, and it's added. Okay, yes, so that's how that would work.
All right. I see Ms. Bredekam's hand is up and I was coming to your questions. You are welcome to unmute and ask Techna directly.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I posted a little picture there that I constantly get when I try to cite. It says you have opened Mendeley Desktop to insert a citation or select a style, but you have not yet actioned this in Mendeley Desktop. And then I go to Mendeley, or I just say retry, and then it seems to work, but then I still have to edit the citation. What does it mean? Where do I action this in the desktop version?
It's also an Apple issue, I'm guessing. You're using a Mac device.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I'm going to add you to the list of our Mac users that we need to follow up on.
The rotten apples.
Yeah, because I don't use, unfortunately, neither myself or Leclau use Mac devices.
Okay.
So, and that's part of why we are creating the FAQ page so we can at least identify the issues. So I'm going to, Leclau, will you take a screenshot of that error, and then we can go and make a meeting with Pepler to figure out what's going on.
Okay, thank you. I do have another question.
Mm-hmm.
My watched folder has created in my normal folder for all my references. It has created subfolders by itself once I put my references into Mendeley. It's created folders that, according to the publications, with names that was drawn from the publications itself. It's not a problem, but it does make my reference library a little bit cumbersome for me to use. It's not just the it's subfolders that I don't really
Yeah.
want to use. Yeah.
And the subfolders, is it what appears here, or is it in the actual folder? And
It appears in the actual folder.
okay.
It appears like that. Yes.
So in that case, let's just see options. It should. You should be able to fix it by going to
Oh,
options.
I see. Okay, I see that. I should go to that option.
Going to file organizer. I think,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that might sort out that issue for you.
Okay. And then the last thing is, when I started using the citations, I used to get with the Stellenbosch Harvard style, I used to get the initial added to the citation as well every time I cited the author.
That might be because that might be because you're using you've got different documents of the same author, but Mendeley recognizes the authors as different authors.
Okay.
That's what I mentioned here. For instance,
Okay.
I'm going to quickly create a duplicate here. No, man. Actually, I don't think I can create a duplicate. It doesn't allow me to create a duplicate.
That might be the case because it is big. It was with an author with two different
Yeah.
So I will check that.
It's tiny little things. Like sometimes it's just because there's a space between the initials.
Yes.
That will cause Mendeley to recognize the author as a different author.
Okay.
And then it will put the initials along.
Okay, I'll check that thing. Thank you.
Okay.
Not a question, but just a note on reference manager, the web one. It is I use it together, and you're scaring now. You're scaring the daylight out of me saying that people had problems with using both. But at the moment, I find it very helpful because there's that wonderful notes system within the reference manager where you can actually highlight sections within documents and then add it into your notes, and it keeps its link to the document. So you can actually collate sections that you want to use in your own writing and always know where it came from. Which I would, it would be sad if I can't use that now, if you suggest that we should not be using reference manager at all.
No, look, I think it's useful in that sense that you can use the two together, but you can't use them together in a Word document. That is where the big issue comes. So the moment you are going to start citing in a document, then you have to choose between desktop or reference manager. But if you want to use reference manager at this stage as a file organizer or a reference organizer where you keep track of your notes, of your records and everything, then yes, you can definitely do that.
Yeah, okay.
And if you are, you can also obviously use Mendeley to reference manager, the newer software, in Word, but then you must only use that and then not use Mendeley Desktop.
Okay, makes sense. I can't put my hand down, so sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. It's quite interesting. Let me see if I can lower your hands for you. There we go. Okay. So I've seen another question here. If sending, say, a chapter with references, but won't want to send them as active references. Okay, so this is quite an important one. And I'm glad somebody asked it because we decided not to include it in the PowerPoint because it can cause problems if it's not done correctly. So if you want to share your reference list with somebody, but you don't want to share the fields of Mendeley, so i.e. when you click on the bibliography or the citations, you don't want it to become active and have this edit citation feature. So basically you want to deactivate Mendeley in your document. What you have to do is you have to click export as, and you select without Mendeley fields. And you're gonna be prompted to save the current document before exporting. Because it's very important to always still keep a copy with the Mendeley fields active, because if you discard the one without with the fields active, it might mean that you wind up with a document where it's completely disabled and you still have to work on a lot of, and you still actually planned on doing a lot of work with Mendeley on that document. So you save the active document. I'm just going to save it in downloads for now. Say Mendeley active. I'm going to save it as that. And then the copy, I'm just going to save as Mendeley inactive. And then I think, yeah, let me just open it. And now you'll see if I click on it, it doesn't highlight. This is also, this is almost the last thing you need to do before you plan on submitting your document for examination and converting it to PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, to PDF. Because once you've disabled these fields, you can now, for instance, make sure the references are left aligned. And then again, even now that you've disabled it, I really do recommend that you or somebody else, there are some editors who do bibliographic control, go through your references and make sure that everything is accurate, because things do slip through a lot of times. Okay. And Leclau, I think, did you see Mrs. Hartman's request to also just be added to the Apple users group?
Yes, I will take all the contacts after the meeting and we'll arrange.
Okay. And Ms. Mutandwa, I see, do we send the request for the SU Harvard style? No, you don't have to. Basically, what you do is you go click on View in Mendeley, go to Citation Style, then click on More Styles, click on Get More Styles, and you just type in Stellenbosch there. And there you'll see Stellenbosch University Harvard. If it's not installed yet, you just click on Install Style. All right, okay, I think we're heading towards the end. I hope we haven't missed any questions. I'll go through the transcripts to see if we did. Oh, Ms. Courtney, I actually, I don't know if somebody assisted you with that, but this is something that I actually had to deal with yesterday. At least with IEEE, it must be 9 to 11 and not 9, 10, and 11. But it, again, depends on the style you are using. Leclau, have you? Yes, thanks. If everybody can take a moment to just fill in the feedback form, we would greatly appreciate it as well. Yes, duplicates works in the following way. Under Tools, you say check for duplicates. It Mendeley will detect the duplicates, and then you have to go through and see which ones are actual duplicates, and then you have to say whether they need to be merged or not. An important little thing that will often make people scare people just on the topic while we still have some time, because this has confused me a lot of times. Oh, no, there it went away. Never mind. Yeah, this little yellow bar, for some reason, if you click on all documents now, it just, your all documents doesn't appear all of a sudden, and it's a bit counterintuitive, but you first have to press the clear button here for everything to appear again. Okay, so you all, I'm going to share my email. I'm just going to share the PowerPoint. I see there's some people who want to arrange 101s. And I hope everybody's still listening, or there are still some of you here. There's a couple of ways you can do this. You can either click go here and click on make an online appointment. And you select your location, Stellenbosch University Library, and you go to Research Commons, or depending, if you rather want to work with your faculty librarian, you can work with them as well. Here you see your different faculties. And under the tab, you say reference managers. So these are set for only half an hour, but usually it's not that strict that we'll go over it. And then you can select the date and the time that suits you, and you can make that appointment to go. Otherwise, you can just straightforward email me or Letao and arrange an appointment with us, and we will assist you in one-on-one sessions. I see Marie's question. I wouldn't really say so. It's basically, unless you want to unclutter your records, but basically it's the same thing. So even if you add these recently added ones, let's see what happens if I move them to Science Direct. And this, of course, is a bit annoying. Okay, so now they have been added. Because even if you remove them here from the recently added, they're still going to appear here under all documents. So I don't think it's necessary. All right, everybody, then I'm going to end our session here. There's still 1 minute left, but I'm going to stop recording.